Okay, some breaking news in the last hour. A media regulator, Ofcom, has said that it has revoked the Kremlin-backed broadcaster Russia Today's licence to broadcast in the UK with immediate effect.
Well, in a statement, the Ofcom chief executive, Dame Melanie Dawes, said freedom of expression is something we guard fiercely in this country, and the bar for action on broadcasters is rightly set very high. Following an independent regulatory process, we've today found that RT is not fit and proper to hold a licence in the UK. As a result, we've revoked RT's UK broadcasting licence. Well, let's talk to someone from Ofcom, should we? Former Chief Media Advisor to Ofcom, at least Martin Campbell. Morning to you, Martin. I can't help but think that Ofcom's been a little bit slow off the mark here. I mean, removing the licence to broadcast is significant, but it's been, in effect, taken off the air in the UK anyway.
Yeah, yes, it has. And I think there's probably a good reason for that, Stephen. Deutsche Welle reporters have already been expelled from Russia because Germany took RT off air, revoked the licence. I guess BBC and UK reporters are now going to have big problems and will probably be expelled, and that really will be bad news. And it may be one reason why Ofcom have held back from revocation, because as you say, it was a European decision to take RT off the satellite, and that's not the same as revoking their licence, which Ofcom have now done. I mean, what bothers me is that it's a little bit of an embarrassment for Ofcom, I think, because TV state television, by its nature, it is going to give you another side of the coin. And you wonder in some ways why it was licensed in the first place, because it was always known it was financed by the Kremlin. It was set up by Putin over a decade ago when he was actually prime minister. So everyone knows that Novosti was effectively the voice of the Kremlin, and the difficulty that Ofcom have always had with RT is when finance becomes control, because you can't have a license that's state controlled. And clearly Novosti is financed by the Kremlin but controls the license. So it's been a tricky one for Ofcom. And the embarrassment, I think, is that they've sort of been told to do this by government. And every time someone like Theresa May or Liz Truss stands up and says, we've told Ofcom to revoke the license of RT, or we've told Ofcom to look at the problems that RT are having, it becomes less and less independent and looks more like an arm of government, and that's a tricky one too.
It's a dark day, Martin, isn't it? This, in terms of censorship and in terms of the government deciding who the public can and cannot hear from. Aren't the public intelligent enough to make a decision if they watch Russia Today, to use that information to offset it with something you might see on the BBC, to offset it with something you might see on GB News? Doesn't this take away an element of choice?
Yes, I think that's an excellent point, and I think both the government and Ofcom are being pretty patronising to the average UK person. I mean, okay, RT, Russia Today, there is a clue in the title as to what you're going to get, and the idea that no one can put it into perspective is a little bit crazy. So, I mean, like so many things that have happened because of this invasion, that it hasn't been handled very well.
It sets a very dangerous precedent, though, doesn't it, in terms of what we as the public can have access to if the government and in collaboration, or if Ofcom, with pressure from the government, can just take off an entire channel.
Yes. Yeah, yes, it does. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have taken it off. I mean, they've had many complaints. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were fined £200,000 for partial broadcasting. So, you know, it is no surprise. But I think the difficulty that we see now between the government and Ofcom will pose problems for the future, because I mean, Artie, you'll still be able to find it online if you want, and as you say, I'm sure people can put it in perspective. The difficulty with all this is that so many problems have arisen that maybe could have been solved much earlier on.
OK, look, really good to talk to you this morning, Martin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.